It that one's a point of contention in the community because it suggestion has the line the request must sound reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are like trying to say, "Oh, I cast suggestion," and I tell them to take off all of their armor and lay down for the remainder of the battle. And it's
Super
like,
reasonable.
I say, yeah, to me that's not remotely reasonable.
I was going to
Right.
do
So
that anyway.
welcome to Monsters and Multiclass, your Dungeons and Dragons fix. I'm Ellie.
I'm Jared Bornicle.
And I'm Will Melden.
And on this episode, we are taking a look at some of the wizards from Monsters of the Multiverse. We did a big poll about what monsters people want to see next, and this one, all of the wizards in Monsters in the Multiverse. There's 9 of these bad boys. It seemed like a lot to do one big episode, but they didn't each deserve their own episode, so we're doing this in 2 parts. Today we're covering Abjurer, Conjurer, Diviner, and Enchanter, and then next week we'll cover the other 4: Evoker, Illusionist, Necromancer, and Transmuter, with a little side note of Apprentice, because there's not much to talk about. So let's just dive into it so these don't get too long. So first up is the Abjurer Wizard. This is a challenge rating 9. Basically, it's a wizard. I guess in general, we should say they have a wizard stat block for every school of magic. They're just basically the subclasses in the original subclasses in the player handbook. They made in the stat blocks. Abjuration is the magic of protection. Abjurers specialize in creating protective magical wards. Monarchs, nobles, and other wealthy individuals commonly hire abjurers to provide protection. Kind of pretty straightforward there. These guys are challenge rating 9 with an armor class of 12, 15 if they cast mage armor. And they're always going to cast, just have all of them start with mage armor.
Honestly, it really should have just said 15 due to mage armor.
Mage armor, yeah.
But I guess you could dispel magic on their mage armor. So
that's true. Yeah.
Or hit them
hit points of 104. There you go. Hit points of 104 and a speed of 30 feet. Strength of 9, dex of 14, constitution of 14, intelligence of 18, wisdom of 12, and 11 charisma. Nothing crazy that you would expect from wizards. Just pretty standard.
basically how I'd build a wizard.
Yeah. I would do strength of 8 because putting it up to 9 is just a weird waste of a point. But
it's yeah. That's
maybe they roll for stats.
Sure. I hate when that stat blocks even bother with that. It's like, when does that ever come up? Just put them to even numbers for stat blocks.
Right. Pre-made characters do that all the time too.
Yeah.
That's why it's like official pre-made characters putting someone at an odd number of stats. Like, whatever. It just bothers me. I don't like it.
Strength, I think that number determines your jump length. So...
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Really,
and it's still not 10.
It's going to make a difference.
If it's not 10, it doesn't matter.
If you're jumping in D&D, it usually is a big deal.
8 versus 9 feet?
Yes.
No, it's usually 5 feet or 10 feet is what matters. Because most people play on grids. Anyway, saving throws of intelligence +8 and wisdom +5, skills of arcana +8 and history +8. Knows any 4 languages, smart wizards. So, and then there's no like passive features or anything. We'll just go right into the actions. They may have multi-attack. The Abjurer makes 3 arcane burst attacks, which is, we're going to see arcane burst a lot. It's a little disappointing. We could cover that after we're tired about talking about it over and over. But arcane burst is a melee or ranged spell attack. +8 to hit, reach of 5 feet, or a range of 120 feet. And on hit, it does 3d10 +4 force damage. Average of 20. It makes 3 of these, so these guys could do the Abjuration Protection Wizard could do an average of 60 damage in a round from 120 feet away.
Which is pretty good. I mean, to be honest, it's consistent.
It just feels high. And I know that's what Monsters of the Multiverse did. They took away damaging spells and gave them these attacks with really high damage, and it feels really silly on an Abjurer wizard.
Yeah, I mean, that's not incorrect, but I guess from just an interesting fight perspective, if the wizard isn't able to at least do some damage, like, I'm not that I'm happy with the way they're doing damage, but if they can't put out damage, then I don't know. I guess I don't know what I'd expect them to do.
I would just rather them have like some...
Just be buffing.
I say, yeah, like an Abjurer wizard, I don't think you would fight alone, generally. and you could just give them damaging spells. Like the legacy version had Ray of Frost as a cantrip. Like there you go, some damage. But then they have up to 7th level spell slots of a bunch of
Sure.
abjuration spells and things like that. They
One
can
thing I'll
also
point
whack
out,
things with a quarterstaff in this. Officially, these new wizards cannot make a melee. I guess they could do an
They
unarmed
can.
strike.
they can. Their the arcane burst is a melee or range spell attack.
Oh, that's true. Oh yeah, which
So-
I guess is an important point because if you get within 5 feet of these guys, you don't give them disadvantage on it.
Oh, right, because they
Yeah,
can
if it was ranged only.
right.
So I
They could
guess
also get
that's- yeah.
opportunity attacks off of that, can't they?
Ooh, that would be a nasty opportunity attack.
But it would
But
make
I don't
sense.
see why not. Yeah.
So I mean, that's a pretty darn big change. I mean, the changes made were definitely to make wizards stat blocks at least less squishy, and that's pretty darn obvious. Even the HP bump of 20 HP is something to that. But I think little things like that are important as well. Just or giving them the ability to actually have opportunity attacks is important, as well as giving them an option in melee range. I'm usually pretty down on the stat blocks in general. I don't like the direction of no more spells. Let's just move towards kind of this blob of damage, which is the arcane burst.
Right.
But having run wizards like stat blocks in the past, like these specific ones, I will say the old ones were fairly disappointing in terms of challenging fights because they were so easy to shut down.
Sure. Though the old Abjuration Wizard had stuff like Wall of Force, Globe of Invulnerability, Counterspell, Dispel Magic, Fireball, Banishment, Cone of Cold.
This new one has a lot of those too.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, we'll keep moving.
Yeah.
So it also gets Force Blast, another action. This is not part of multi-attack, so this would be its whole action. Each creature in a 20-foot cube originating from the Abjurer must make a DC 16 Constitution saving throw. On a failed save, a creature takes 8d8 force damage and is pushed up to 10 feet away. On a successful save, a creature takes half as much damage and isn't pushed. Average of 8d8 is 36. So big old AoE. Heavy hitting AoE. I guess it's not that big. 20 foot out isn't. Well, that's the size of Fireball, so never mind. But
yeah, cube versus a circle. I don't know. I can't do math. I think a circle's bigger.
Oh wait, I misread the whole thing. I thought it was 20 feet from the wizard, which would be 24 radius.
Yeah,
20-foot cube is definitely
each creature in a
20-foot
20-foot cube originating from the Abjurer.
right, which is just an end of it. It's not a. Well, you remember when it's a cube?
Oh, yes.
The
yes,
origin
yes.
point. Well, remember little wizard.
Pull
friend
up the
Chuck,
gnome!
Pull up
Yeah.
the gnome.
We'll put the gnome on the screen. Yes, the originating point for cube is always an outer edge. So it is a lot smaller. Because 20 feet across versus Fireball with 20-foot radius is 40 feet across.
Right, and you can choose where a fireball gets placed. So
Right.
the Abjurer has to basically run up and be like, Force Blast right in front of you.
Yeah. Which is all fine. I'm just, I guess, defending my point of calling it a little AoE
Yes.
that hits hard. It's like a souped up Thunderwave.
Yeah, that's a good way of thinking about it.
Yeah. All right, and then they also get spellcasting. Again, not part of the multi-attack, so if they want to...
The wizard gets
What?
spellcasting?
Yeah, not part of the multi-attack, so if they want to cast a spell, it's their whole action. It's basically innate spellcasting. They have a DC save of 16 for these, so at will they can do Dancing Light, Mage Hand, Message, or Prestidigitation. So they got rid of any damaging cantrips, just kind of...
That's what Arcane Burst is
Primarily-
for.
Yeah, out of combat stuff. Twice a day each, they could dispel magic, cast Lightning Bolt, which is a new addition and a decent AoE, and cast Mage Armor, which again, just have them start with it. And then once a day each, they could do Arcane Lock, Banishment, Globe of Invulnerability, Invisibility, or Wall of Force. So a decent spell is definitely pared down from the original. Like I said, the original is like full spell casting up to 7th level, and they had their slots and everything, which is a lot more versatility. We've talked about that to death on previous monsters recently. Um, but these are solid ones.
Yeah.
Though I
Only
think they're
thing,
high enough level to give them greater invisibility.
greater invisibility probably makes sense. I'm also a little bit disappointed to not see shield on here with an Abjurer
Oh,
wizard.
well, they have their built-in reaction, which would really,
I guess, yeah, it would kind of be double dipping.
yeah.
It still just feels a little bit wrong because Abjurer, like abjuration magic, I remember there's very few abjuration spells. So like taking away one that's kind of considered the best one feels a little bit odd. But
Sure. I get that. And then just to wrap it up, and then we could kind of talk about anything else we want with it. It does have a built-in reaction arcane ward. This is kind of this like really unique thing other than spell picks. This is a recharge of 4/6. Like I said, it's a reaction. When the Abjurer or a creature it can see within 30 feet of it takes damage, the Abjurer magically creates a protective barrier around itself or the other creature. The barrier reduces the damage to the protected creature by 40, 10 plus 4, average of 26, to a minimum of 0, and then vanishes. So this is lifted straight from the subclass. I know the subclass works a little differently. But it's a really cool, flavorful thing and definitely makes them feel like abjuration wizards. Without
yeah,
it, they would just be kind of plain ass wizards with some abjuration spells.
yeah, this is actually a pretty big change from the original stat block. This one's definitely worth talking about. As in Vola's Guide to Monsters, it had the Arcane Ward, which was almost more directly ripped from the subclass. The Abjurer
Right.
has a magical ward that has 30 HP. Whenever the Abjurer takes damage, the ward takes the damage instead. If the ward is reduced to 0 HP, the Abjurer takes any remaining damage. When they cast an abjuration spell at first level or higher, the ward regains a number of HP equal to twice the level of the spell, which
Okay. I think
isn't.
that's exactly
Yeah,
how.
I think that is exactly the same, and is by no means a fantastic ability. Even when we had an abjuration wizard, I feel like they were struggling to find abjuration spells to cast in the middle of combat that actually gave enough HP to the ward. It also isn't able to put it on anybody else. This wording is whenever the abjurer takes damage, not something that they see within 30 feet. So
Oh, yeah.
huge difference from the Monsters of the Multiverse version that actually has a lot more use to it.
Right. I say this one, it's not an action. It's just on. It's part of the
Correct.
features. They just
Mhm.
start with this. And then 30 seems higher, though. I think the 30 might be high enough to make it okay. How does it work in the class? I'm trying to read it.
It's like class level times something or another.
Has it equal to twice your wizard level plus your intelligence. So like it's a challenge rating 9, which doesn't make them level 9. So that's complicated to
No,
figure
it
out. But
says it
to
says in the
get
stat
to
block they're a 13th level spellcaster. 13
oh,
times 2, 26,
26
into
plus
18,
okay.
30.
That's how it gets. Okay, so I guess it's not that crazy to get to that high level. Yeah, I guess we would kind of just blow through 30 hit points pretty quick.
And you would not get it back, as we learned, because
Right.
they have
Yeah,
a list.
you're like knock, yeah.
They have little
What'd you say?
stars next to all the abjuration spells, so that you know, hey, this is gonna increase your ward. And it's like their concentration
Alarm, mage armor,
or useless.
shield. Shield's like the one.
Shield is
and
the
that'll
one.
give you it's double the spell level you get back, right?
2 HP.
So yeah. The high level stuff, symbol, which takes a minute to cast. So
Yep.
that's not
Worthless.
happening in combat. A globe of invulnerability. That's the only big one. It will give you 12 hit points back. Banishments are abjuration. Then you get 8 hit points. Yeah, it's pretty limited.
And you get counterspelling, they do run into each other. They do take a lot of, so you dispel magic. That's your turn in this old iteration. And now you've got 6 HP to hopefully make it through the next one.
Hope that dispel was worth it.
Right. Yeah, we're on the new one as it's a reaction to reduce damage as it happens around you. You could do it on other people. It's really great. We've been talking about it in the sense of the party fighting an abjuration wizard. I think they could also make really cool allies.
Oh yeah.
Like a tough fight that the party is not strong enough for. Like they have made this abjuration wizard as an NPC to fight alongside them, and they're not. Maybe have us focus more on spellcasting than the arcane burst, so they're not outshining the party in damage and just destroying everything. And then all these spells that they have are going to be more helping out and controlling the battlefield and absorbing damage with arcane ward.
Yeah, you all actually had a wizard ally at the near the end of the last campaign, Jadir, I think that was his name.
Yeah.
And I ended up making an entire stat block because the old stat blocks just weren't really that interesting to me. And I remember there was a lot of overhead trying to run that character as well as the entire fight. This one has significantly less overhead and probably would have gone this direction had these been available at the time, just because it is much simpler to just use that as a reaction, or kind of focus on the spell casting that is less damage based than everything. Probably would have been a little bit nicer to run.
Right.
So then that's the Abjurer.
I say I'm good to move on. Like we're gonna kind of get a lot of repeat mechanics, and so we'll kind of get into things deeper. We're not trying to make everyone a full episode.
Conjurer wizard, very similar, lower challenge rating though, of challenge rating 9. Says the conjurers summon creatures from other planes of existence and teleport themselves and others in the blink of an eye. So with that challenge rating 6, we get reduced HP. It's at 58. Has the more or less same stats, just a little bit pared down. Same saving throws, intelligence and wisdom, same skills in arcana and history. And I won't mention those again because every single wizard has saving throws and intelligence and wisdom, and then skills in arcana and history.
Yeah, just slightly varying amounts, but it's usually only 1 or 2 off.
Right. So we see this multi-attack again with 3 arcane bursts, and same deal. It is the same 3 per turn and does 3d10, but +3 here instead of +4. So slightly less damage, but not by much, just because that intelligence modifier is lower.
It's +2 hits less, +6 versus +8. These guys are
I think
just
that's
lower level.
notable that they have an identical damaging spell. I mean, like, look at the health difference between the Abjurer and the Conjurer. The Abjurer cannot reduce itself to 1 hit point in a single turn. The Conjurer could.
What do you mean?
Are you attacking yourself often?
If you were, like in this example, they have not turned down the damage, yet the challenge rating substantially lower.
Right. I mean, I think a lot of that definitely comes from the spell list as well, but you're right. And if you even look at like the how to calculate challenge rating table that nobody ever looks at except for me, and I don't mean that about you too. I mean like the world at large, I don't think looks at this table. 57 to 62. What's that?
I always have it open. If you look in my box, you'll see the
All right, you guys are making me feeling cool. I'm going to pull it up.
I have it bookmarked. So it has the damage per round at challenge rating 9 is 57 to 62. And this having the same damage as the challenge rating 9 Abjuration Wizard puts it in the damage category of a challenge rating 9. But the health, HP being at 58, puts it at 1/2 challenge rating defensively. Now, the way to calculate challenge rating is a little bit more complicated than just taking 2 of those numbers. There's 6 things that are taken into consideration. But I think that's a very clear sign that this thing leans much more towards offense than defense. Now, we were just talking about an Abjurer Wizard, though, where I would anticipate defense being more of what boosts them up than their damage. So you could probably argue that for challenge rating 9, an Abjurer was probably low on the damage scale, and this thing's probably a little bit high.
The Conjurer.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah, that +6 hit, though, is a big difference. Versus +8, that's 10% less.
Yeah, and that's one I honestly...
their damage by 10% when compared to the Abjurer.
Yeah, say we're... Think of this, though, where you all are about level 5. So a challenge rating 6 Conjurer Wizard would probably be a good thing to throw into a fight, right?
Yeah.
Most things that attack you all have +6 to hit right now. they're not doing 3d10 plus 3 damage.
That's true. Yeah.
You need them to miss a good amount, because your barbarian that's raging and resisting a lot of damage has a max HP of, what are you at right now?
60.
50 something. You are at 60.
So
okay,
this
so
could reduce me to 0 before I even got to go. Even ignoring if I wasn't raging, because it just goes right through it.
it's force. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you need them to miss. That's, I think, in line with the challenge rating here.
Which is kind of bringing up the issue, like that we see these fights are almost getting swingier and swingier.
Yeah. Yep. I will definitely agree with that. That's too swingy.
Another point, I could end this wizard in one lucky turn.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, we talked about that with the Vecna fight and the new Archdruid stat block. When our original like Monsters of the Multiverse coverage episode where we highlighted a couple mind flayers, I like that too. It just keeps, it's all going that way.
Yeah, where it's like combat should last 1 round, maybe 2 if you're doing it wrong.
Right.
What?
But they did add a bunch of new art for all of these, and they're all really cool. And I
we got to give them credit for that.
I always
by
love
added
good
art,
Yeah.
by added art means probably stole Magic the Gathering cards and called it new art.
You think?
As they do a lot of times. I don't think these ones are, but
Yeah, I was gonna say, because this Monsters of the Multiverse is not a Magic the Gathering related book, right?
yeah, but Wizards of the Coast owns both, so they just swap
Right.
art all the time.
Oh, okay. Oh, I assume they were only doing that for
Magic settings.
yeah, like I'm blanking on any of them, like Theros. And Eberron.
I don't think Eberron's a Magic the Gathering setting. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. This is
As far as vertical integration is concerned, I think Wizards of the Coast is probably best set up to just have pictures of wizards on hand.
But are there any at the beach?
Yes.
Oh,
the
Wizards
Archdruid could totally be at the beach.
That's not a.
What
it's supposed to be a wizard at the coast.
Was it that monk?
I thought you were just doing
that was
like
just
an
wearing
anime
like a
beach episode
scarf
joke.
as armor. It was a.
I don't know, and unless you have the art ready to pull up, then it doesn't matter.
Yeah, we can move
So
on.
it does have spellcasting, the Conjurer wizard, and gets at will, dancing light, mage hand, and prestidigitation. 2 times a day, it gets fireball, mage armor, and unseen servant, and then once a day, it gets fly, stinking cloud, and web.
So solid conjuration spells, though a lot of them aren't. What's the actual conjuration spells here? Mage Hand. Unseen Servant, which is like, I don't know why these... I always feel weird, like an NPC stat blocking and something like Unseen Servant. I don't know.
It's not going to come up, really.
Yeah.
Stinking cloud and web are both conjuration.
Yeah.
So there's some. That's just kind of an issue with being a school of wizard. It's like you're never going to just have like, I only have conjuration spells, because
Right.
you're probably just going to be a bad wizard.
Yeah. But yeah, so at challenge rating 6, a fireball is scary to see.
Yeah. And I think something that I'm noticing is that because they don't have the full spell slots listed out, they're more generous with giving things like fireball and lightning bolt, because I think we'll see that in just about every single stat block here, because it can't be upcast anymore. A fireball is scary, but it's also an average damage of like 26 or something like that, somewhere around there. Probably not killing anybody in 1 turn, but it's going to be a heavy hitter. Compared to their Arcane Burst, though, definitely not as much damage single target. And yeah, it's just, again, not having it upcast, I think, gives that freedom to put these in. Whether or not that's a good thing, I don't know, but is something of note.
Right. The inclusion of Stinking Cloud is good. I like that, where it's not just damage, just another way to mess with the battlefield. That's when where it's this cloud. It like kind of moves away from you after you cast it. Oh no, never mind. This one just lingers. But every creature in it, they con save if they fail. They spend their turn retching and reeling.
Yeah, you're thinking of some 5th level spell. I can't remember what it's called.
Yeah,
Cloud of Death or something.
Cloud of Death.
Yeah. Yeah, so this basically just poisons everyone who's in the cloud.
Stinking Cloud?
Yeah.
No, this is the one where they spend the turn retching and reeling. They lose their
Oh,
turn.
so you lose their entire action.
Yeah.
Okay. That is really nice, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And this is good. I like when these come up because dwarves always have that thing, and I think a sub race of halflings also have like the advantage on poison saving throws, and it just
Right.
rarely comes up. Anytime that can come up, I'm happy.
Yeah.
And then just area denial, which is very good when you can summon an elemental that wants to take up space. That I'm sure
Right.
we'll
And would
get.
be immune to all of that.
Yeah, that's a very good point. That said, the web probably not good to cast if you're also going to throw down a fire elemental. Just get everybody stuck and then just burn right through it.
I think they take damage. If I remember correctly, I'm pulling it up.
The web or the
yeah,
fire
any
elemental?
5-foot cube of web exposed to fire burns away and run round, dealing 2d4 fire damage to any creature. That's not a lot of damage, but
No.
It's funny.
I mean,
it's not much.
And there's always that. The funny factors is important.
Right.
Could be good for setting up traps, though, as well.
Totally.
Because it lasts for an hour. It's not like you need to cast it in combat. That all just depends on your setup.
Right.
So getting into these bonus actions has benign teleportation. So there's a recharge of 4 to 6.
Transportation.
Oh, it is. Sorry. Benign transportation. Ugh. I can't read. I'm sorry, everyone.
Yeah, they just get on a bus.
What?
They just get on, it's benign transportation. They just get on a bus. And just...
okay. I thought you were telling me to get on a bus. That's a weird insult, Ellie. Like, he's like, get out of town. Get on a bus.
On a bus.
All right, so it's a recharge of 4/6 ability. The Conjurer teleports along with any equipment it's wearing or carrying up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space it can see. If it instead chooses a space within range that is occupied by a willing small or medium creature, they both teleport, swapping places. So very useful if it's fighting with allies to be swapping out as the barbarian gets right in its face and it's like, hey, I don't want you here. How about we swap with the champion that's also in this fight?
Yep. And this is pretty much taken exactly from the wizards, the Conjuration Wizard in the player handbook.
Yeah,
so
I think the big
fitting.
difference is that it's a recharge, though, right?
Yeah, I think I'm pulling it up now. I'm pretty sure this is like it's just a once per long rest.
Yeah.
Or you cast a Conjuration spell of first level or higher.
Okay. Well, this is a better way to handle it. I think
so, yeah.
I'd rather it just be a certain amount of times per day, like give them 3 times per day, which we'll see in the Diviner Wizard in just a moment. But yeah, recharge abilities, I'm just not a huge fan of in general. I always forget to recharge. I just don't think about it while running a stat block. So anytime I can just have a set amount and use it, a little bit happier with.
I kind of like the recharge. I would never want to see him on a PC, and we don't see many like class features, which I think is good. But there's definitely been a lot of times where usually the recharge abilities are saved for something really strong, where we're really hurting the fights, getting down to the wire, and you roll in the open, and you like make a point. It's like this is the recharge for like the big explosion or the fire breath or whatever it is, and it's all really tense because we know if it gets it, we're probably dying. So it adds a lot of good tension.
That's fair. With this, I don't think you get that tension. So
that benign transportation. No, you don't think you get a lot of tension with that one?
No. So I would almost say that you're right. Recharge abilities should be saved for things that have the ability to add tension if they are back.
Right.
This, I don't think the party would even notice. They'd just be kind of like, man, this dude can just teleport around. He just keeps taking buses everywhere.
Right.
Then we have Summon Elemental. This is a once per day ability. The Conjurer magically summons an elemental of air, earth, fire, or water. The elemental appears in an unoccupied space within 60 feet of the Conjurer, whom it obeys. It takes its turn immediately after the Conjurer. It lasts for 1 hour until it or the Conjurer dies, or until the Conjurer dismisses it as a bonus action. So
And
this
I'm
is kind of a 2-for-1 block here.
Yeah, I'm really happy they gave him a summon, like an official summon, because they're the conjuration wizard and they have no spells for summoning.
The old one didn't have any summoning.
It didn't.
That was a question.
Oh,
No,
oh
it
that,
did.
that one did. Yeah,
Okay.
it had the conjure elemental spell for 5th level.
Okay.
Um, that was it though. No, like conjure woodland beings or beasts or anything like that.
That's probably fair. They went with the one that's, again, the least amount of overhead, because if
Yeah.
you're DMing and it's like, oh, I now have to throw down 4 pixies that start polymorphing everybody into sheep. Ha ha ha. It's not really that fun.
Not great, right?
Just let us smash an earth elemental, please.
Right. I say yes. Summoning one elemental does not add too much complications and overhead to running a fight. So I'm happy to see this one.
Yeah, but otherwise, I mean, I think the more we talk about this, I'm not super happy with where this sits in the challenge rating spectrum, because it doesn't seem like it's taking in the summon elemental into account. And maybe it should, maybe it shouldn't. It probably should, though. If you're able to bring in a challenge rating 5 creature along with you, it seems like that should have some factor.
Right. And you can just pop it in as a bonus action. So they can
Right.
still do their 60, almost 60 damage of Arcane Burst and then pop in a Earth Elemental.
That then gets to go immediately.
Yep.
So this thing is having an extremely strong turn with the ability to wipe out 2 or 3 level 5 PCs in like a turn. Maybe 2.
Yeah.
And as Will mentioned, can also be obliterated with 1 focus fire from a barbarian who gets a crit. Or, if everybody just says, gang up on the wizard, which in our groups is really common. If there's a wizard...
That's our jam. That's what we do.
Yeah, like that's not like a...
Kill the spellcaster, yeah.
Let's just let them tire themselves out. I'm sure once they burn through all their spells, they'll just kind of roll over. No, it's kill the wizard fast, because the longer they're around, the worse it's going to get.
I mean, especially presented with the alternative. It's like, oh, look, a giant earth elemental. Let's spend the next how many turns beating this thing into dust?
Right.
Yeah, I would advise against
126
that.
HP.
Yeah.
With resistance to non-magical attacks. So
yeah, we could move on.
I think so. I think it's the only... No. Yep. Good to move on. Pretend I didn't say anything.
All right, next school of magic we're taking a look at is divination for the... I was never sure. Is it the diviner wizard or diviner wizard? How you're supposed to pronounce that?
Time to go to...
Oh, yeah, I guess that would happen.
Diviner. Yeah, diviner.
It's diviner. Okay. Diviner. So, yeah, diviner wizards, the divination school of magic is about seeing into the future, predictions, seeing things far away, like the sending spell and things like that. And they have the coolest class feature, like the subclass, the divination school of magic subclass for wizards of portent dice, where you could just like swap dice out. And luckily, it made it into the stat block for the diviner as well, and we'll get to that in a second here. These guys are challenge rating 8, so kind of between the last two. Armor class at 12 with 15, hit points at 90. Everything else is basically the same, so we're going to skip.
The numbers are a little adjusted. Some go up, some go down. It's an arcane burst.
Yep. Yeah, the multi-attack makes 3 arcane bursts plus 7 to hit, same range, 3d10 plus 4, so it's basically like the Abjurer, just 1 less to hit. So again, same sort of heavy hitting thing. This one is radiant damage instead of force. I'm getting sick of arcane burst. I kind of really wished they changed up. Why radiant? I don't know.
Why radiant? That doesn't make any sense.
The only thing I can see is like,
no,
there's some flavor with divination about like touching into the divine. That's where you're getting your information.
This is wrong. They're wizards. Wizards don't do radiant damage. There's not like a single spell in the wizard list that does radiant damage.
Yeah.
And I might be wrong about that.
I was just trying to guess. I don't know.
Stop it. Don't you dare speak anymore. You're done talking. No, that just bothers me. Like force damage, yes, I'm tired of seeing as well. But I'm more tired of seeing arcane burst. But changing it to radiant damage just feels like they threw a dart at the wall.
Right. All right, and then they have Overwhelming Revelation. This is a recharge of 5 or 6. The Diviner magically creates a boost of illumination and burst of illumination in a 10-foot radius sphere centered on a point within 120 feet of it. Each creature in the area makes a DC 15 Wisdom save. On a fail, they take 10d8 psychic damage, which is 45 average, and is stunned until the end of the Diviner's next turn. On a successful save, the creature takes half as much damage and isn't stunned. So
Okay,
this is insane.
This is insane. It's insane that they didn't put psychic damage for the arcane burst and they did radiant instead. Okay, I'm done. I'm off it.
Why
Yes,
doesn't
the
it do
overwhelming
arcane damage? They should have just phoned it in even more.
Overwhelming Revelation. Yeah, that's an absurd amount of damage. The 10-foot radius within 120 feet is also nice. I mean, compared to the Abjurer that we were talking about, is a 20-foot cube directly in front of them. Realistically, with a 10-foot sphere, you'll maybe get 2 people, but that's still even halved a solid amount of damage for challenge rating.
Right. And then stunned.
Yeah.
For the next turn. Like until the end of the Diviner's next turn.
Could you
they
imagine
get advantage on all their arcane bursts next turn.
Could you imagine if monks got an AoE stun that also did damage?
Right.
No, you cannot. You cannot imagine that.
They do have that, basically.
No, they don't. Stop, Will.
Yes, they do. That's literally what they have in a way.
It's not an AoE. And yeah, just the fact that with allies, that means that they're all going to have advantage on the next attack. This is a great creature to throw in to make a fight more difficult. I mean, this will just make it more difficult.
For sure. Yeah, Overwhelming Revelation to play these guys optimally, I would say pretty much use it every turn.
Well, it's a recharge.
Every time it's available.
Yep.
Yeah. And then they have spellcasting, spell save DC 15 and 8 spellcasting, just like the others. Light, Mage Hand, Message, and Prestidigitation at will. Twice a day, Arcane Eye, Detect Magic, Detect Thoughts, Fly, Lightning Bolt, Locate Object, Mage Armor, and Rary's Telepathic Bond. And then once a day, True Seeing. So very classic divination spells. They really lean in heavily with that, which I appreciate seeing.
Yeah.
Though a lot of these are like scouting spells, exploration spells, which I mean, I guess if you have this NPC coming along to help you with that, but then you start kind of getting into like DM NPC thing of like the DM NPC is scouting out the locations that the DM themselves made, and
we run into that very often regardless, but not that specific scenario, but the weirdness of preparing something then having to pretend you don't know it.
Right.
That's just DMing. For True Seeing, I'll say that's it's high level 1. And in general, there's kind of a pattern with these wizards spell casting where the once a day is usually like the highest one of the old stat block. So I do find that interesting, kind of nice that they kept those around. But True Seeing does seem like it could have use, at least in combat. And it lasts an hour. It's another one that I wonder if you'd want to have in combat, or if you just kind of treat it like Mage Armor, where it's just assumed that the Diviner is probably going to have True Seeing up regardless. Because True Sight is nice, but unless somebody also goes invisible, it's not always that useful.
Yeah, and it only lasts an hour.
Sure.
So I don't know if I would agree that it would always be up unless like they know, I guess they're diviners. Maybe they are going to know that they're about to get in a fight. It's like, all right, let me cast True Seeing.
Yeah, I would say that if there's a stat block to know that a fight is coming up, it's going to be this one.
Right. Interesting, the Legacy one, True Seeing is not its highest.
It's not.
It also has mass. It's True Seeing 6th level. It also has Mass Suggestion at that level. Its highest is Maze as an 8th level spell, which is just kind of like a super banishment. But these guys, I have no idea why. I don't know what the justification for it is, but the Legacy has Delayed Blast Fireball.
I saw that. I mean, That's taken the preparation and divination aspect to an extreme.
That's true. Okay. Like, yeah, they know it's like, all right, these guys are coming through the door in 20 seconds. We're going to cook a delay blast fireball right there for them.
It's just
Okay.
mean.
Yeah. Especially for challenge rating 8, a delayed blast. The party that's going to be fighting these things is going to not survive that. The spell's base damage is 12d6 at the end of each turn. The bead, that is, if it's not yet detonated, it increases by d6. I assume it maxes out at some point, but
Yeah,
it's a
yes.
heavy hitting spell.
If this is the only thing a party is fighting, and you would expect that to be probably challenge rating 5 through 7 or so for the party. Yeah, that's probably a bit too much damage. But this is really good in high level play.
Yeah.
A diviner wizard against a party of level 14s or so would really round out or make for like a good medium encounter with a couple of minions and whatnot. There's some stat blocks that like lose their usefulness as time goes on. I don't see that with this.
No, definitely not. Also, just like having one of these around for like your big bad evil guy, they have a diviner wizard, or this area you're going has one. You could just kind of justify like the people there, the enemies there, having a sense of where the party is and what they're doing, unless they take steps to block it. So just like have it, they kind of almost like feel like a story, like a plot role.
Mm-hmm. I am
Just
a little
kinda
surprised that they don't have scrying as well. In the new stat block.
The original, I don't see it.
Huh.
Level scrying. Oh, there it is. Yeah, 5th level spell. They have scrying.
Okay, so the old stat block does.
Yeah.
Just to play up that aspect even more, the ability to know where the party's at. And that's something I absolutely love, because your party can just be traveling out of nowhere, and then you just go, hey, can you make a wisdom saving throw for me? They're like, oh, okay. Gets a 1. All right, carry on.
Right. All right, and then these guys have my favorite reaction. Portent. They can do this 3 times a day. When the diviner or a creature it could see makes an attack roll, a saving throw, or an ability check, the diviner, I keep on saying diviner, yeah. Diviner rolls, everyone knows what I'm talking about. Diviner rolls a d20 and chooses whether to use that roll in place of the d20 rolled for the attack roll, saving throw, or ability check. This is ripped exactly from the subclass. Though I think they start with 2 and not 3. And it's such a useful ability for PCs to have. And I imagine it would be very annoying and useful in a fight against your party as well.
Yeah, especially in combination with that overwhelming revelation. Oh, you
Make
got
a save.
Yeah, you got a 20. How about you re-roll that? And there's no distance to it as well, which I think is important. It's not like Counterspell where you have to keep in mind like, oh, I have to be within 30 feet. I can't get too far away. Portent is just if they can see you, they can make you re-roll.
Right. But yeah, that's diviners. I like these guys. I think they're cool. I think they got a lot of good utility, both in and out of combat. But again, they just hit really hard for the challenge rating, so you just need to be careful with that swinginess. And we're just going to say that for all of them. Some more than others, but...
Yeah, maybe they realize that wizards only last 2 rounds anyways because everybody's focusing them. So we're going to make them worse. We're going to make them stronger. It's not really a good arms race, in my opinion, but that's...
No.
I mean, yeah, like that's a good realization. This is just not the Band-Aid I'd put on the problem.
Right.
I like the art too. It's this old grumpy looking gnome. He's pointing angrily at a giant eye like he's yelling at it.
Yeah, when you got to scold your eye because it's talking shit.
Right.
All right, then we have Enchanter wizards. So Enchanters...
Final one for the episode.
Yes, they know how to magically influence minds. Benign enchanters use this magic to diffuse violence and sow peace, while malevolent enchanters are some of the most evil of all spellcasters. So a little bit of flavor text thrown in there that's spawned from the discourse around enchantment magic in the last couple of years, which is perfectly reasonable because enchantment magic can be pretty darn evil.
Right. Oh, these guys don't have art.
They don't.
They're the only ones without art. Oh, man, that's going to screw up my thumbnail idea. Shit.
It's okay if you're missing. I guess I don't know what your thumbnail idea was.
It was just going to be like the four of them kind of like lined up side by side.
You could just do the
It's kind
three
of like
of them lined
superhero
up.
movie, like an ensemble superhero movie style. Of like the blades of each one, yeah.
You
Whatever.
could just do like a place
Do a
Enchanter
three of
Wizard
them.
here,
Right.
like just like a little outline or something. There you go. That one's free. So the challenge rating is 5. Very similar everything, but we'll talk about the HP is 49 on this one, and the multi-attack is, once again, Arcane Burst. Similar to the Conjurer, it does 3d10 plus 3 for an average of 19 damage per round, and it can make 3 Arcane Bursts a round, and it's plus 6 to hit. So for spell casting, we've got Friends, Mage Hand, Message at will. Twice a day can Charm Person, Mage Armor, Hold Person, Invisibility, Suggestion, and Tongues.
Yeah, this one I find really dull.
Same.
I usually don't like, and I know you literally just did this, so I'm not like calling you out, but it was like just kind of like a silly flavor thing of like the enchantment spells being used on the party,
Mm-hmm.
because like taking away that kind of player agency for quite some time and like forcing them to do certain things. I know I don't like that happening to my character. I don't find it fun, and that's kind of really all this thing does, other than the occasional hold person.
Yeah,
And
and
then
invisibility.
the same arcane burst I could do over and over that all the other ones could do.
That actually is a horrifying combination. If they manage to
The
get
Hold
that
Person
off,
and Arcane Burst.
you're done. It's over.
Yeah.
You're done.
Yeah, and something that's lost on this stat block is not being able to upcast Hold Person. That's probably a good thing. I'm sure holding the entire party stinks, but I do like when I can upcast spells like that because you anticipate at least 2 or 3 people are going to succeed on it. So it's a nice way to kind of guarantee you're not wasting a turn with it.
Right.
It obviously has the potential to swing really poorly, but that's how things go sometimes. In terms of casting those things on player characters, I totally agree. It's definitely not something that should be used often or like in normal settings. The time where it came up recently was very much to you weren't supposed to like it. You were supposed to dislike this person. And then it wasn't like every 5 minutes. It's like, and then we're going to cast Friends again. We're going to do Charm Person again. And he's going to have a bunch of unreasonable requests and you have to fulfill them because he's charming you every 2 seconds. Because that would have gotten really old really quickly. It was like to prove a point, this person's a jerk and you have to be weary around them. And the tone was set and backed off. So if you're planning on using an Enchanter Wizard, I'd suggest doing it that way. Trying to like cast suggestion on the party member and like making them go on some weird 8-hour quest. It's just really crappy. But suggestion can be used in combat, at least. I just don't know how great it's going to be.
That one's a point of contention in the community because suggestion has the line, the request must sound reasonable.
Mm-hmm.
And so people are like trying to say, oh, I cast suggestion and I tell them to take off all of their armor and lay down for the remainder of the battle. And it's
super
like
reasonable.
I say, yeah, to me that's not remotely reasonable.
I was going to do that anyway.
Yeah,
but I've also seen complaints of like chasing somebody down and kind of get them cornered and they're like in a position where they can like take a risky move to try and get away or just surrender, and then casting suggestion on them to tell them, hey, you should just surrender, and then the DM going, no, that's not reasonable to them, they really don't want to surrender, so then they dive off the building or something. It's like, no, okay, I would have considered that reasonable. So suggestion's a really messy spell that I feel like causes a lot of arguments.
I think that's fair to say. I don't have
a good solution to it because like it is open-ended, so it is just kind of up to DM discretion of what's reasonable and what's not.
I think
so. I don't know because it's really easy to abuse. Yeah.
And then of course they have tongues. That's super important, right? We should talk about that for 5 minutes.
Right. Understand any spoken language.
All right, good talk. Then
Okay.
it has a reaction, Instinctive Charm. This is a recharge ability, 4 to 6. When a visible creature within 30 feet of the enchanter makes an attack roll against it, the enchanter forces the attacker to make a DC 14 wisdom saving throw. On a failed save, the attacker redirects the attack roll to the creature closest to it, other than the enchanter or itself. If multiple eligible creatures are closest, the attacker chooses which one to target.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
that actually I won't say it salvages this entire fight, but it does make for something interesting happening during it.
and it is also pulled similarly from the stat block or the subclass Instinctive Charm. The feature, it's very similar. That one just has a D. That one they have to roll. Oh, they have to roll on this one too. All right, I think it's
Mhm.
almost the same thing. But yeah, that's a good way, I think, to get the feeling of like enchantment magic without taking away your player's agency and making them do silly things or be really annoying. It's like just quick burst of it where their attack gets redirected and they like in a haze and not sure how that happened, but then they're just back.
Sure. You are also comparing the like out of combat versus in combat. This is a good way
Right.
to show it in combat. You can't
Oh,
really use
yeah.
Instinctive Charm out of combat.
Yeah, that's true.
But agreed. I mean, this kind of sums up Enchanter pretty well. Now, this to me, just these other ones feel like they could be their own fight, where depending on the level that your party's at, that wizard is like kind of the focus for the fight. The Enchanter wizard, I don't think I'd ever do that. I don't think I'd ever have the only thing that you're really up against is an enchanter wizard and a couple of apprentices or some thugs or something along those lines. It just doesn't really make sense. It wouldn't make for an interesting fight. But in higher level fights where you're trying to round it out and make more than just, I don't know, whatever high level creature you've got, this could be a good addition. As it would basically focus on casting hold person and be something that the party needs to target, because if it goes on too long, like Will said, it gets a hold person off and then it just arcane bursts on somebody who's stunned and it's lights out.
Paralyzed.
And it can melee too, right? So it could officially get auto crits on that.
Yeah.
You can technically auto crit on range spell attacks as well by running up to them
Oh.
within 5 feet, because it doesn't impose the disadvantage. They can't interfere with it.
But if somebody else did, either way, that's still in this case it would still be a melee attack.
And it's still too much
Right.
damage. Now it's just twice as much as too much damage.
Yeah, I think with challenge rating 5, I'd have liked to see this damage drop.
Yep. Oh yeah, same with what we were talking about with Conjurer. It's their arcane burst is the same. Except for Conjurer's Force and
This one's psychic.
And this one
Psychic.
uses psychic. Well, psychic
Yeah.
okay makes sense for Enchanter. That's fine.
yeah.
The degree to which they all have the same thing is just mind-boggling, because all of them get 3 of these. That's like such an easy slicing point. You could just slice it right there. This one gets
Totally agree.
2.
This should be 2.
Suddenly it's better. No, it's not, because they actually hold person still makes it broken.
Spoilers for next episode. The Illusionist gets 2.
Of course, the Illusionist gets 2.
Arcane
Of course,
bursts.
the Illusionist gets 2.
And I think the Evoker gets 4.
Okay, now you are spoiling things.
All right, yeah.
That may not be
People are
right
not going to
now.
watch that episode now.
They already know. They know the entire episode is 4 arcane bursts and 2 arcane bursts. That's
Oh,
it.
and I was wrong. It's just 3. So it's just the poor Illusionist just gets 2.
Oh man.
Yeah.
Well, what I would like to get 2 of is 2 sets of dice from Metallic Dice Games. Is that, yeah.
No, that's good. That's
okay.
good.
All right. Well,
2 or more.
2 or more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably 3 actually, because then you can
10.
get free shipping. And
Yeah.
as long as you're, ordering some dice off Metallic Dice Games for whatever reason, just randomly bringing that up, you could probably use the code MM10 to save 10% off your entire order. And by probably, I mean, yeah, you can, like all the time. Even if they're having a sale, you can get an additional 10% off. Take advantage of that. Not that I don't think they're running a sale right now, but, keep an eye
That's
out.
kind of the nature of internet content. Someone could be watching this when they have a sale. Someone can watch this like 7 years from now.
Oh, I hope not. No, I hope this is entirely forgotten in 7 years. We're going to remove these, scrubbing them from the internet.
Right.
I can't even handle stuff that was like 2 years ago. That's too much.
Our podcast is almost 4 years old.
But if you could handle this, why do you think we're doing the Redux series? We're like
Okay.
going through and redoing everything that's 2 years old because I'm like, I can't listen to it. It's awful. The fact that people are listening to this makes me sad. Anyways, if you enjoy this now or in the future, I guess it doesn't really matter, or the past if you have that ability, then you should like, comment, and subscribe. And ring the bell, because that's the thing. If you are on podcast apps, make sure to leave a review. I found out it does absolutely nothing for any algorithms, but it boosts our self-esteem, which is
Wait,
important.
it really does nothing?
Does nothing for
I
podcast
didn't know that.
Yeah,
Aw.
entirely pointless. But self-esteem is important, so boost that up. And you know who boosts that better than anyone? It's our patrons. Ed G, Monoweight, Brian H, Craig A, Isaac M, Jeff W, Star Shinobi, Vincent M, Bob F, Joe P, Rick D, Sentinel D20, Tyler S, Gray, Barents, Adam A, Rob K, and Gray. All of them boost our self-esteems, and we hope that we can boost your self-esteems by saying your name at the end of episodes. I don't know what else it's for, but like everybody says you have to do this. So we're doing it, okay? We're trying. And if you want to support the show in other ways, you can go to monstersmulticlass.com/support, where you can check out our Patreon as well as our other affiliates. And on our Patreon, you can get early access to episodes as long as they're done with time and we don't go to Gen Con, which totally screws up recording. Or you can also see campaign notes and diaries from our current campaign that's ongoing. I've actually been sticking to it for almost 2 months now. That is progress for me. So, thank you all, and we can let this episode end now with grace.
Yeah, as always, thanks for watching.